back everyone for some more Apollo Justice Ace Attorney here on Nintendo Switch. And we already continue on to day 2 of the trial in the case against Machi Dabai, which we have heard from a defendant himself. And we came to find out that not only can he see, but he can also speak a little bit of English as well. But we did manage to get him testify a little bit. He got a little bit overwhelmed on the witness stand. So the judge ordered a 5-minute recess, and that's where we're going to be picking things up here. And hopefully we'll be hearing either more of him or perhaps some Lamar or somebody else. But before we continue on, hope you guys have an awesome day today. Hope you guys doing well. So without further ado, July 10th, 11:23 a.m. District Court Defendant Lobby Number 2. Apollo Eustace. That's justice. Better learn how to say it if you ever want to get some. Believe. I know shooting. Machi claims Mr. Latouche was already down on the ground when he entered the room. Maybe it was a trap and he walked right into it? Suddenly, I hear revolver. Close. Very close. Then I hear a voice. You heard gunshots? Yes, it's true. I hear revolver, but only sound. Wait, you're saying you went into the dressing room? And found Mr. Latouche already dead, and then you heard shots? If that's true... So, you were at the scene of the crime when you heard those shots? And you escaped through the air vent? I know. Huh? What do you know? I know if I open a vent, I can leave stage and backstage. So the vents went to both the stage and the backstage area? Is that what he means? Hey, he's right! Look, Apollo! Huh? Yeah. But how did you know it was connected like that? Wait, I bet his father was the architect that designed the hall or something. I hear this from Magician. Magician? Don't look at me! A magician, huh? Well, at least we're clear on one thing. Machi didn't shoot Mr. Latouche. Yeah, but what does that leave us with? We're supposed to say he went into the room and found the body and then he heard the shots? That one's gonna go over well in court. Not. Apollo, you're his defense. You're supposed to believe whatever he says, even lies. That's what Daddy always told me. I'll just pretend you misheard him, every time. So, what do we do? You sure you won't testify, Machi? No talking. No. Well, it was worth a shot. That cocoon. I can't go home. Can't go home? I can't go home to Virginia. I do not want to go home. The penalty for taking cocoon from Virginia is death. That's right, it's punishable by death. Of course, he's scared. Oh well, I guess we'll just have to try a different approach. That's the spirit, Apollo. So, what's your plan? If Machi won't testify about it, we'll have to get someone else to testify. Someone else? I think we're out of time. Let's get back in there. Right. Sorry if you hear that in the background. July 10th, 11:28 a.m. District Courtroom Number 3. Court is now back in session. Mr. Justice, have you sorted things out with the defendant? Yes, Your Honor. We had a good talk. Very well. So will he testify? Your Honor, the defendant will not testify. What? Shame. And here I thought this was your big chance to turn the case around. Actually, it is. The defense would like to approach this case from a different angle, Your Honor. A different angle? If Machi won't testify, then I know who will. I would like to cross-examine a witness in this case, Lamar. Lamar?
Objection!
What are you up to now? I thought we determined yesterday that Lamar's testimony was insubstantial. There's nothing you can... Lamar was taken to the hospital yesterday with injuries. What happened? She was assaulted, Your Honor. Assaulted? Someone wanted Lamar dead. Thankfully, she was able to save herself. What? I've heard no such report. Prosecutor Gavin. Why would anyone be out to kill Lamar? Can you think of a reason? Well, think of how she is known in our country. A singer from overseas who doesn't speak English, yes? Yet someone tried to keep her mouth shut. Who could that have been? You don't think... I do. It was the same person who shot Miss Latouche. The killer was afraid of her, afraid of what she might say. The defense believes that something was hidden in her testimony yesterday. Something that the killer doesn't want getting out. So, am I to understand that this is what you're saying? Namely, that there is a nugget of truth in Lemurer's testimony? A nugget we have yet to uncover? Exactly. Lemurer was attacked. This has serious implications. Very well. There were some vague points in her testimony during yesterday's trial. Perhaps we did not inquire as deeply as we might have into some. The court will hear Lemurer's testimony once more. Lemurer, I must apologize. We must ask you to stand again and speak. You need not apologize. I know that Machi is innocent, and I will do all I can until the court realizes this. Let's review your testimony from yesterday. You told us you heard 2 gunshots in the shooter's voice through the window, and that the voice belonged to Darian Crescent, yes? That is correct. At which point I proved she could not be correct. She couldn't have heard any of those things. The small window at the scene was closed and was found to be quite soundproof. You have nothing to say to that, Mr. Justice? I don't know exactly what yet, but I do know there's something there. There is, it seems, much you do not know. And yet it is my duty to hear him out. Perhaps a witness would be so kind as to testify once more to the court? Of course, Your Honor. Witness testimony. What I heard. I was on my way from the stage to the backstage exit. That's when I heard them, Mr. Latouche and the detective. I heard the faint sound of a gunshot and stopped. Then I heard another gunshot. There was the smell of gunpowder. I knew I must tell someone, but I was in a hurry, so I kept moving past the small window. Pretty much the same as yesterday's testimony. I am sorry. I am not used to speaking much in this language. Perhaps my descriptions are lacking in some way. Yet everything I have said here is the truth. Then it is my distinct displeasure to say this. What you have said to have happened is impossible. Do I have to repeat myself? Lemurer was attacked because of this testimony. But what? Trucy? Apollo, you know, for a moment there, you were pretty cool. Maybe I do better when I don't try to think ahead. Very well, Mr. Justice. Perhaps you can coolly cross-examine the witness? Don't mind if I do. Cross-examination. What I heard. She was on her way from stage backstage exit. That's when she heard them, Mr. Latouche and the detective. Darian Crescent? I did not know his name at the time. But yes, it was him, the one who took the stand yesterday. How many times I need to remind you that's impossible? There's no way you could have heard him. Because the window at the scene was closed? Is that why? Of course. Apollo, if we keep asking the same questions as yesterday, we won't get anywhere. She's right. Maybe there's a different angle I can try. I'm gonna ask... Did you hear anything else? No need. The only one that makes sense to ask at this point in time is what were they talking about? Lemurer, do you by any chance remember what they were saying to each other? If so, please tell us. I have given it much reflection, but I was afraid of this. She doesn't remember. I only heard one phrase clearly. A whole phrase? You remember something that was said? Why didn't you say anything yesterday? Though my memory is clear, I was afraid to speak. You see, I do not understand what was said. This could be it. The clue I've been waiting for. Well, what did he say? It was the other man speaking, not Mr. Latouche. The shooter, then. Darian Crescent. Well, what did he say? It's over. Press the switch. Now. Switch? And the shooter said this to the victim, Mr. Latouche? I thought it quite strange myself afterward. It is a mystery. What could possibly mean? Mr. Justice, care to share some light on this? I mean, sure, I'd be delighted. Some very, very vital. Maybe we could add that to the testimony. Maybe, Apollo? From the small window, I heard a voice say, press the switch. Now. Well, we know that the switch in question is this.
Objection!
Press the switch. There's only one key that can unlock the mystery of those words. Oh? Yet there was nothing at the scene that could be called a switch, save the lights. True, there wasn't a switch at the scene, but it just so happens I have a switch right here. That certainly does look like a switch, doesn't it? The problem is, this was found not at the scene of the crime, but on the stage. The stage? Where the concert was held, yes. This was found hidden there. On the stage. Are you claiming that the voice Lemuel heard was of someone commanding another to press the switch? It's a possibility.
Objection!
Oh, a forehead? I'd call that an impossibility. Why? It's hardly necessary for me to remind the court of the layout of the concert forum. The stage is quite far from Lemuel's dressing room. Not to mention that the Gaviners were in the middle of a concert on said stage. We aren't known for being a quiet band. You could shout all you wanted and not be heard. The detective's voice was loud, but certainly not a shout. So too have Air Forehead's cries of possibility fallen far short ahead of being heard. Sorry, but he wouldn't have needed to shout. Excuse me? You heard what I said, or do you need me to shout it out for you? It would have been quite simple to be heard on the stage from that dressing room. Oh wait, you like evidence, don't you? How about this? Using this, it would be easy to get a message to someone on stage from the dressing room. Courtesy of this headset. Prosecutor Gavin, perhaps you're familiar with this? But why that's... What? What is it? Is that some kind of newfangled phone they invented while I wasn't looking? This is a type of transmitter, a communications device. Communications? Device? From what I heard that night, everyone on stage was wearing one of these. Isn't that right, Prosecutor Gavin? Ah, yes, actually. They're for talking between band members. We all had one on. So you admit if you were wearing one of these, talking from the backstage to the stage would be simple.
Objection!
True, but wait, those send out an electronic signal. To avoid interference with the audio systems, their range is quite limited. Lemuel said it was about 30 feet, right? Look at this cross-section diagram of the concert forum. Ah! Exactly. The walk from the stage to the backstage seems far, but the direct distance is less than 30 feet. That can't be. So, when Lemuel heard the shooter's voice, he could have been talking to someone on stage.
Objection!
Huh, you're claiming that this is the switch in question? Why did it have to be on the stage at the time? It could be placed in a pocket and carried anywhere. Someone could have hid it on the stage after the fact. Hey, he's got a point. How do we know where it was when she heard the voice? When the shooter said press the switch? Well, I guess we don't. An unfortunate situation. Hey there, Cole. I'm afraid that until we know where the switch was, there's little point in debating it. Ugh. I was sure this was the way to go with this. What is the switch, anyway? We don't even know that basic fact. Wait a second. I do know what this switch is. And if you follow that train of logic to its incredible conclusion, it ends up in proof that completely changes this case. What's up, Apollo? Apollo? We know about this switch, right? We know what it is. Yeah? Well, think of when it was used that day. Think of what happened. Well, Mr. Justice, let's go ahead and save. If you have no further information to show concerning the switch... Your Honor. Yes, Mr. Justice? I've been remiss in not telling the court this before. I know what this switch is. Well, it seems the defense is set upon linking the switch to the case. Let's see your evidence of the link. What evidence do you have to explain what this switch is? Well, the switch is a way to make this particular item work. Prosecutor Gavin, you remember this? Ah, that's not... That what? Is it another one of those newfangled phones? This is an igniter. What phone looks like this? Igniter? You mean it's like a lighter? Yes, actually. You aren't saying the switch is the remote? I am. This is a remote trigger for an igniter. What? Look, I'll show you. Yeah, whoa. Mr. Justice, you will cease and desist from burning down this courtroom. Sorry, that was a bit more fire than I expected. If my whiskers are caught on fire... Prosecutor Gavin, let me repeat myself. This switch is a remote igniter trigger. Doesn't that suggest something to you? You're talking about what happened to me, aren't you? Ah, exactly. That night at the concert there was one unusual burst of flame. When your guitar caught fire in the middle of your performance. Wasn't that part of the stage show, though? Prosecutor Gavin was entirely unaware such a thing had been planned, and the guitar that burned was a valuable keepsake. That's right, he got it in Virginia from Lamoureux. He said the sound was amazing, before it burned of course, now it just kinda smokes. The better the guitar, the brighter it burns. Forehead. Yes? Don't tell me you're trying to tie these two things together. Those being the shooter's voice heard by Lamoureux, and the guitar suddenly catching on fire? I am. It's really simple when you think about it. Mr. Latouche and the shooter were at the crime scene. The shooter was wearing a headset. He ordered someone on stage to press the switch. The switch was pressed and the guitar caught fire. Well, that does seem to make sense. Though something about it is bugging me. Can't quite put my finger on it. Really? Seems pretty simple to me.
Objection!
Forehead, don't destroy what little respect I have for you. I was expecting something a little more sensible. I guess I was wrong. What's this all about, Prosecutor Gavin? His simple story simply makes no sense. Think, that night my guitar caught fire, yes. The cause may have been this, indeed. However, the guitar caught fire during the second set. Ah, that's right, of course. I totally missed that, I'm sorry. Indeed, yet the shooting happened during the third set. The two were utterly unrelated. Yes, that must have been what was bugging me. The whole premise for this is faulty. See, his story makes no sense.
Objection!
Are you sure about that? What exactly do you mean, Mr. Justice? Let me go ahead and save. Maybe it's not the premise for my explanation of the switch that's at fault. Maybe it's our premise for the entire case so far. What premise is this specifically? I'm glad you asked. I'm saying that maybe the killing didn't take place in the third act.
Objection!
What's this? But Detective Emma Sky heard shots and found the body. All this happened in the third act.
Objection!
Gunshots rang out, and according to his testimony, Machi was in that dressing room at the time. Where are you going with this, Mr. Justice? Stay with me, Your Honor. He also told us this in his testimony, namely that the victim had already been shot. We all heard gunshots, but no one saw the shooting. This is insane. Just before the shooting took place, the shooter was heard on his headset, telling someone to press the switch. The next moment, Prosecutor Gavin's guitar burst into flame. We know that a remote-triggered igniter was inside his guitar. From all these facts, we can draw only one conclusion. The crime did not take place during the third act, but during the ballad performance, the second act. What? Order, order, order! But that goes against the evidence. What does, Your Honor? This crime was carried out according to the lyrics of that song, yes? Hey, he's right. Look. The bullet is supposed to come after the fire. You're thinking about it the wrong way. Huh? Look. Why would the shooter craft the events of the day that follow the lyrics anyway? It's an awful lot of trouble to go through. With little merit for the person doing it. Well, I'm sure whoever was had some reason. Yes, they did. A reason that made it advantageous to follow the lyrics. You're saying the order was reversed on purpose? Reversed, Prosecutor Gavin? If the criminal followed the lyrics strictly, then yes, the shooting would have had to come after the guitar burst into flame. Yet, Forehead is raising another possibility. He's claiming that the bullet came not after, but just before the fire. Couldn't have put it much better myself. We were only meant to think that the shooting came after the guitar burst into flame. That was the criminal's objective. The crime followed the lyrics to a point, but that was the ruse. Why else would the killer risk discovery by moving the body? That was the final touch to make us think he'd follow the lyrics the whole way. Order! 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 That would explain this most unusual situation. It does. The killer changed the order of events to create himself an alibi. In other words, the killer was someone who had an alibi for the third set, but not the second.
Objection!
I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but sadly it has. Let me tell you what your little fairy tale makes no sense at all. Oh, it sounds good, I'll give you that. You've given us the reason why the killer bothered following the lyrics of my song, but I question your logic, for it's flawed from the very beginning. Flawed? Yes, a contradiction, Air Forehead, one I've pointed out several times, no less. At the time of the crime, the small window at the scene was closed. How could Lamoureux have heard a voice through it? Oh, I know that you would like to divert our attention from this critical fact, but you're basing your entire line of reasoning on a false premise. Right. Lamoureux's testimony is my entire case. That voice she heard, the shooter's voice. But what if she couldn't hear it, Apollo? Look, what do we have? A man saying press the switch. And near the crime scene where we have a switch, which acts as a remote trigger for an igniter. And last but not least, Prosecutor Gavin's blaming it's her. It can't all be coincidence, but how do I make it work? I see a more direct line of questioning is required. When the crime scene was investigated immediately after the crime, that window was closed. Care to tell us how Lamoureux heard the voice? A key point to be sure. Mr. Justice, can you explain this to the court? I think I can. Okay, Justice, you've got one thing to prove, and one thing only. Lamoureux heard a voice, and she heard it during the second set. Think, how is Lamoureux able to hear the voice? She's around here, well, the answer to that is she was somewhere else. When we investigated the scene, the window was closed. The shooter had no reason to close it, had it been open either. Meaning, it was impossible to hear the voice through that window. Ah, it's good to hear you making sense again. For a moment, I was afraid you might be a Virginian too. As I was saying, Lamoureux could not hear the voice through that window. So there can only be one explanation. She heard the voice from another location entirely. What's this? You do amuse me so. I thought you and Good Sense were back on speaking terms. Now, I'm afraid you and Good Sense speak two entirely different languages. Shall I interpret for you, Air Forehead? Lamoureux clearly stated she heard the voice through that small window, and there is only one small window at the scene. Are you sure? Think about it. Isn't there another small window at the scene? There is? Oh, I know that look. He wants us to ask him. Very well. You claim Lamoureux heard the voice from another location? Mr. Justice, show us where this location was. Lamoureux heard the voice from here. Well, she had to hear it from here. This is where Lamoureux heard that voice from. But that's no small window, that's the air vent. What did she tell us? She said she's a Virginian unfamiliar with our language. It's not a stretch to imagine she called this air vent a small window.
Objection!
Now you've done it. You've gone beyond ridiculous into ludicrous. So Lamoureux was up in the ventilation system listening to this man's voice? That's the only logical explanation, yes. Logical? I do not think this word means what you think it means, Air Forehead. Okay, what about it isn't logical? It hardly merits saying. Why would Lamoureux be in the ventilation system, hiding like a rat? No offense intended to her, of course. The explanation for that is simple, Prosecutor Gavin. Isn't it, Lamoureux? You have been listening to a discussion here, yes? Yes. I admit, it's had me quite confused since yesterday. Yes, the small window was closed. But why should that mean I could not hear through it? I fear the prosecutor might himself need an interpreter. Ugh. The problem here is words. Lamoureux, this small window through which you heard the voice, was it up high on the ceiling of the room, not low on the wall? Yes, it was up on the ceiling. What? Order, order, I will have order. Witness, you will clarify this statement to the court. And with that, I think I am actually going to save here. And the next time I see you guys, we are going ahead and we are going to be listening more from Lamoureux. So hope you guys looking forward to that. But thank you guys so much for watching this. Hope you guys are enjoying this series so far. I'll be seeing you guys again next time.